Yeah.
Welcome to the Monday, July 24th, West Fargo City Commission meeting. At this time, we will open the meeting with public comment. We have two registered guests this evening. The first guest that registered is Mr. David Withy. He has a public comment about a North Pond signage request. Welcome, Mr. Withy.
Good evening. Thank you very much. I won't take much of your time at all. Two brief comments. First, regarding the public comments, it would seem I wish he was here to hear me say this, but I agree with Mr. Simmons, and that the current format really isn't working really well. I would suggest you either start your meeting as soon as public comments are over, or include them in the beginning of your meeting. Seems to make sense to me. The second comment is regarding also on the agenda, the sign that you're discussing. Frankly, we live only a couple houses away from one of the comments you already received. I don't know why they don't just make the sign wider rather than taller. It would fit in with the area very well. It would fit in with the sign that already is there for a nearby property, and you'd have plenty of room, because there's plenty of space there, plenty of room for it to be wider rather than as tall as it is. I think everybody could be happy. And that's all I have. Thank you very much for your time, and thanks for your service.
Thank you, Mr. Withy. The next individual that has signed up is Mr. Stephen Marquardt. Please join us, Mr. Marquardt. Briefly describe the question is a question on sanitation rates.
Good evening, and I was going to comment just as David as well, but Mark's not here, so as far as moving that this period on, and I see it's on the agenda tonight as well. So with that in mind, I got a couple things that obviously we're figuring, or maybe starting to figure out what's happening with our water rates. I still have a question about that. I still don't understand. I printed a copy of my water.
Thank you.
And the amount that we get billed for sewage. And with that in mind, you can see, and this comes out every month. So right here, it shows the overall average that I've got every month, okay? Well, you can see in June of 23, I just used 11,667 gallons of water. And I'll tell you what, it is because I'm watering my lawn. That water is not going into the sewage system. As a matter of fact, last week I took a picture of it, and it's on my phone, I could show you that it didn't even run down the street because it was so hot. It didn't matter, it's not getting there. So I obviously, a couple times. Now, you can see also in July and August of last year, I'm over the 4,000. It's my wife and I in the house. December and January, our kids were there over Thanksgiving. So we had 8 additional people in our house and 2 teenage girls and 2 boys. But in January over Christmas, we had them again. So that's a question I have as far as that's going, why we get nailed. They should be able to do a $4,000 or 4,000 gallon, because I haven't used over 4,000 gallons, use that as a basis, and then charge us that way. And I think that's something that should be looked at, because I'm paying for sewage rates that I'm not using. Now, this is probably something that is where the water's been, the issue that supposedly fixed. The other thing I also look at is our garbage rate. And there are people around town that have 2 containers. We get charged for using water, we get charged for using sewer. If people have 2 containers per week, they should be charged extra money for that. Okay? I also don't think we should have a chase vehicle every week. People can take stuff to the landfill. Other towns don't do that. We have a cleanup week once a year. I think that would save us some money, because you put 2 guys in a chase truck, I'm guessing that is costing $100 an hour at a minimum. With the 2 people, their benefits, the truck, gas, so on and so forth. So I think that's something to do. One last thing, and I'll get out of here, I'm probably over my 2.5 minutes, but I was also told by a member of this commission that it costs us more to use waste management than we're actually saving with the recycle. And if it's costing us more to use waste management, then why are we using them? That doesn't make any sense to me. Thank you for your time. Oh, West Fargo is no longer a small town, guys. We gotta do this the right way.
Thank you. That's all we have signed up for public comment. Is there anyone in the crowd that would like to speak this evening? We prefer to have you registered, but I don't want to deny anyone. That's the purpose of public comment. Mr. Withy?
Can I add a comment?
You may. You didn't use up all your time earlier.
Actually, we have something in common. I too used to be in the sign industry many years ago, decades ago. But I want you to know that when I moved to a new area, which I did much earlier in my career than we've done more recently, I've always been able to find ways to get to know the community better. And I just mean like, where's the post office and that type of thing, just get to know the community. And being able to sit in on your meetings has been an excellent way for me to learn more about our community. It's been very educational, and I appreciate the opportunity. And I have to also say, I think our staff do a wonderful job in both putting things on the internet for people to look at, but also in responding to questions. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Once again, we're going to have dead time. And if, unfortunately, Commissioner Simmons is not here this evening. I understand he's having a health procedure. But on the regular agenda, we have a discussion about changing the format. Quite honestly, when we first moved forward with the public comment, I thought there would be a much greater outpouring of people that would be coming in. And so stay tuned, that there will be I will be asking the commission for a modification this evening as to how we do that and incorporating it into the regular meeting. So please stay tuned to that. So once again, I apologize, but we're going to sit here and look at each other for a while. Thank you. Sir, that's correct. You're absolutely right. All right, with that, Mr. Frank. And welcome to the Monday, July 24th, West Fargo City Commission meeting. I call the meeting to order, and I'd ask that you join me in a pledge of allegiance. Thank you. Thank you. Next order of business is to approve the order of the agenda as presented.
Make that motion.
Commissioner Olson moves. Is there a second, please?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the order of the agenda. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Before I go on, again, I want to offer my apologies. Commissioner Simmons is not with us this evening. I understand he's doing a health procedure, so he will not be joining us this evening. Item D is the building permits. The building permit report has been distributed, and it is in your packets.
Move to approve.
Thank you, Commissioner George. Is there a second, please?
Second.
Commissioner Olson seconds. Been moved and seconded to approve the building permits as presented by Planning and Zoning. Is there any discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Next order of business is the consent agenda. We have items A through F. They are in the packet as distributed.
Make motion to approve.
Thank you, Commissioner Olson. Is there a second, please?
Second.
Commissioner George seconds. Been moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda, items A through F as presented and distributed in your packet. Commissioner George.
Just a quick comment. I just want to give a shout out to Ivy West, who is for Airport Authority board member. I think she's just one of the smartest, nicest people I've ever met, and she's been a career pilot her entire life. She's lived in West Fargo her life, has deep roots here, and I'm just, I think I'm thrilled, and I think it's just awesome that she's wanting to serve on the Airport Authority.
Thank you, Commissioner George. Well said. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor of approval of the consent agenda, items A through F, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. We are now in the regular agenda. Item number 1 is A 23-21, North Pond at the Preserve, 15th edition, a conditional use permit for a modified sign development plan. Mr. Aaron Nelson, our planning director for the city of West Fargo, welcome.
Thank you, and good evening, or good afternoon. So item 1 is titled North Pond at the Preserve 15th Edition. This is a request for a conditional use permit for a modified sign development plan. A modified sign development plan simply being a request to modify sign regulations to accommodate unique aspects of a given property. In this case, the subject property includes all of the North Pond at the Preserve 15th Edition. I'll bring up a map here just to give you a visual. This is located on at the site of the Rivers Bend Medical Center, 300 block of 23rd Avenue East, just on the south side of I-94. So right in between I-94 and 23rd Avenue. The requested modified sign development plan is intended to accomplish 2 different things. Number 1, it's intended to consider all 5 lots within this subdivision together as one premise for shared signage purposes, which is important because the city sign code makes a distinction between on-premise versus off-premise signage. And then number 2, it will establish a sign allocation plan. And the sign allocation plan is just what the sign code uses to ensure available signage for multi-tenant or multi-business type situations. The reason the applicants are requesting this modified sign development plan is because they intend to construct a shared multi-tenant sign along 23rd Avenue East, which would include signage for businesses located on all 5 of the lots within the subdivision. Since some of the businesses would be located on lots other than the lot that the sign is located on, those particular signage, that particular signage would be considered off-premise signage and would not typically be allowed under the current sign regulations. And so by treating this all 5 lots as one kind of unified development, which is the applicant's intent here, Their desire is to kind of create a medical office park kind of campus, if you will. By treating this all as one premise for sign code purposes, the sign would be considered on-premise signage, and they would be allowed to construct the sign in accordance with the city's sign regulations. The sign allocation plan itself, this is something typical of any time we have a multi-tenant building or multi-tenant parcel. It's intended just to make sure that there's enough signage divvied up to all of the future users or future tenants, just to make sure that the first tenants that come in don't use up all the available allowable signage, essentially. So that's the intent here. A public hearing was held at the July 11th Planning and Zoning Commission meeting, for which notices were sent out to all property owners within 350 feet of the subject property. Staff did receive a couple of inquiries as well as one letter of opposition from a neighboring property owner. A copy of that letter is included in your packet tonight. The specific concerns noted in that letter of opposition were specifically in relation to the size and the illumination or the potential illumination of that sign in relation to the neighborhood, which is directly across the street on the south side of 23rd Avenue. In regards to the letter of opposition, staff would note that the application or the applicant is not requesting any sort of special approvals in regards to the size or the illumination of the sign. They're simply requesting the ability to advertise for businesses located on some of the adjacent lots and not just the lot that the sign is located on. At the July 11th meeting, the Planning and Zoning Commission did add a condition that any signage along 23rd Avenue be consistent with the style and renderings included in the meeting packet. So that's in reference to the image that you see here, which the applicant had no issue with. They intend to build exactly what is shown here. This condition has been incorporated into the conditional use permit agreement, which is also included in your meeting packet tonight. And then ultimately, staff finds that the request is consistent with the intended purpose of the modified sign development plan option, as outlined within the sign code. Mainly because the 3 lots on the north side of this property do not front on any sort of public street. All the access to the northern 3 lots are via private drives within these shared easements. And so it is somewhat of a unique situation in that those lots don't really have the ability to put any sort of signage along a public street. Certainly they do have the ability to advertise to the north, to the interstate, but in terms of wayfinding for anybody looking to actually navigate to the site, that's the purpose of having the signage along 23rd Avenue. So with that, the staff recommendation is to approve the conditional use permit and the associated CUP agreement as outlined in the staff report. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Can you show us on 23rd Avenue exactly where the sign would be placed?
Yep. So they're actually proposing 2 different signs. The first sign is the larger multi-tenant sign, which would include spaces for any existing and future tenants within the 5-lot development there. I believe that sign is intended to be located towards the west here, kind of southwest corner of the subdivision, right next to one of the driveway entrances to the private drives that allow for the internal circulation. The second sign doesn't look like it made it into the packet here, but it's a much smaller sign. I think that one was only 15 square feet in sign face area. And that's just a directional sign, just saying something along the lines of the medical office park with an arrow pointing this way for the second driveway located approximately in the middle of the subdivision, right where my cursor is, if you can see that.
So on these 5 lots coming off 23rd Avenue, how many curb cuts do they have?
I believe they proposed 2 curb cuts currently when that subdivision was originally approved. One is on the west side of the subdivision, and then I think the other is right in the middle here.
About where the yellow line is on the other drawing showing the 5 lots? That about right, Aaron?
Hope you were just about there, just keep going.
There it is.
Yep. Approximately where that yellow line is, yep. And then also on the west end, right here. So here and about here.
Personally, when I reviewed this, if they're going to go to the west curb line, it is directly across the street from that residential neighborhood. And I had a similar thought that in the design of the sign, rather than being 25 feet, extend it laterally at a 10-foot overall height or something like that, which would still accommodate the multi-tenant type of display, but
Was there any,
for where they're placing it, it's directly in the backyards of the people just across the road. I would have never proposed that.
was there any discussion like that in the Planning and Zoning Commission? To go shorter and wider?
A little bit. I'd say there was similar concerns brought up by the planning and zoning commissioners. A couple of things worth noting, I think, is one, the sign itself is intended to face west and east, is not going to be facing, south towards the neighborhood. Just to specify that, if it were to face south, it would not be allowed to be illuminated without a conditional use permit. But they're not requesting that it face south, or they are requesting that it face east and west towards 23rd Avenue traffic. And then in regards to the sign itself, I think staff would just note that, again, the size and the illumination of the sign, if not for the off-premise versus on-premise distinction, the sign that they're proposing meets all of the requirements of the city's current sign code. And so there's really they're not really requesting any special permissions when it comes to the size or the illumination of the sign itself. So what's in front of you tonight, what they're
With
asking.
you saying that, Aaron, then what's the purpose of a conditional use permit? It's because it's off premise, correct?
Correct.
Yeah.
Yep. So they could, if all the tenants, all the businesses that they're putting on the sign, if those are all located on this southwest lot, for example, that sign could be permitted by right without any sort of special approvals, if that clarifies things.
Any questions for Mr. Nelson? Anything, commissioners? Commissioner George?
Okay, yeah, I guess I'm trying to understand the difference between if we vote for this versus if we say no, and what they are allowed to do. Specifically, if we say no to this, then what would that look like? If we said no, what would that look like, I guess?
The tenants in the other lots so you've got 5 lots there. You're gonna place it in the southwest corner, right? Those other ones, because if they don't have the conditional use, they cannot advertise on this sign because it's an off-premise sign.
Oh, okay.
That's the difference.
Okay, I see.
So the idea of having a multi-tenant sign is a great idea. It's the design of it, of 25 feet in the neighborhood's backyard. So, so they're doing the right thing. So if you did it laterally, you could still do the same thing. Rivers Bend has a great sign as you pass Costco, and that's a horizontal sign that has, I think it's great looking. Commissioner?
Yeah, I struggle with the height of it and just the proximity to the neighborhood. I want to be able to protect the neighborhood. I know that there's a fence along 23rd on most of those properties, but 25 feet is pretty high. And I think, regardless, like anybody to the east or to the west of the sign is going to see that sign, and even if it's illuminated or not. And the only one that's not going to see it is really the one that's directly south of there. So that's where I struggle, and I don't have an issue with having the multiple tenants on there for for those that are in the other lots, but it's the size for me. So that's where I struggle.
Mayor?
Please, Commissioner Olson.
What our planning and zoning director also said was, if it were not for the northern 3 parcels up there, this wouldn't even be coming to us. It would go in, because it meets all of our requirements. So the only thing we're actually doing here is to allow the 3 parcels up there to be able to advertise on this sign. No, it could be 20 feet, or it could be only 10 feet, but it could be as high as, I think, 35 feet per our thing, and we wouldn't have a say in it. Just keep that in mind.
The 35 feet is only on the interstate corridor. This would not be considered interstate corridor, even if the 3 lots that do it join that. correct?
Okay.
Correct,
That's
yep.
be,
Okay.
that'd be the
I-
right
I
interpretation.
I misread that.
That's fine, that's fine.
So I'm wondering if they would be willing to go back though and be a good neighbor, because it sounds like the consensus is people are not opposed to the idea, but they want it long instead of tall, and if they'd be willing to look at that just to be a good neighbor. I mean,
You know, yeah.
Commissioner Anderson?
Yeah, I think that would be a good idea. I think in relation to the sign code, I think, that's something that I think we're trying to look at, right? That's one of the things that we're kind of on the a list of planning needs, right? But I think the signs need to be looked at, I feel like, in different areas. So we have the interstate corridor, we have regional roadways, so anything on 32nd or Veterans is gonna be quite different than something in what's effectively a residential area. So that's kind of how I see that and where my mind goes.
Anything else, commissioners?
I guess a question then for Aaron, is that something that would be an option? And if that was the consensus of the commission to want to go that direction, or?
Yeah, I mean, I don't see the applicants present here tonight. But if you wish to table it or something, if you would like to, have the applicants here to respond to a question like that, that would be one option.
I guess I would make a motion to table it and come back with another option with the applicant.
I'll second that.
I have a motion by Commissioner George, a second by Commissioner Anderson. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Aaron, do you have any questions about the directive of having conversations with the developer slash sign contractor?
No,
All right, thank you, sir.
thank you.
Item number 2 on the regular agenda is the addition to the Finance Department staff payroll specialist, Heidi Dalmarn, Finance Director, City of West Fargo. Good evening, welcome.
Good evening, President Dardis and Commissioners. I would like to request permission for an additional FTE for the Finance Department for a payroll specialist. In the past, we had an accountant slash payroll specialist that helped in both areas, and I posted an accountant position that will focus on accounts payable, accounts receivable, and help with different areas in that accounting field. Right now, we have an accountant right now that does everything, and so she's kind of taken on a lot of responsibility. This would help split it up. It would help with cross-training so that we have both of them understanding all areas of the accounting process, so that would be beneficial to us. We would then add a payroll specialist who would concentrate on payroll and the process, the review, the journal entries, the liability payments, making sure they're up to date with all the rules and regulations. And this position would also be able to help different areas in the department as needed. Right now, probably help with utility billing, review, and getting up to date on that. So these positions would also help us with succession planning. So as we plan for the future and retirements and different things, we would then be able to look at the department and reanalyze where we're sitting at that point. So with that, I would answer any questions you might have.
Thank you. Commissioners, questions? In conversations that I've had, I totally support this. Some of the issues that we've had, we were asking people to have different fields of expertise. Quite honestly, they were doing some shortcuts for whatever reasons. And so I would like to go on record that I absolutely support what our finance director is requesting here.
Make the motion to approve.
Thank you, Commissioner Anderson. Is there a second, please?
Second.
Commissioner Olson seconds. Been moved and seconded to approve the addition to the Finance Department staff, a payroll specialist, as presented this evening by our Finance Director. Is there any further discussion?
Over here.
Please, Commissioner Anderson.
I just want to note that in the memo that we received that this position should be covered with the budget overrun or the surplus that we have right now due to the open positions. Is that correct?
Correct, Commissioner Anderson. Sorry, I should have mentioned that too. We do have the dollars in the 23 budget. We just need permission for an FTE, and then we will include it with the 24 budget, so thank you.
Thank you.
Additional questions? Great question, Commissioner Anderson. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
Item number 3 is the second reading of Ordinance 1233, legislative updates. We're calling Sarah Weir, Assistant City Attorney. Good evening and welcome.
Thank you, Commission President, members of the commission. This is the ordinance that we had first reading on at the last meeting. These changes reflect the updates from this last legislative session, just so that our ordinances are in compliance. There haven't been any changes since first reading.
Thank you. Questions?
Make a motion to approve second reading.
Thank you, Commissioner Olson. Is there a second, please?
Second.
Commissioner Anderson seconds. Been moved and seconded to approve the second reading of Ordinance 1233 for all the legislative updates. They are in your packet as presented this evening by Sarah Weir, Assistant City Attorney for the City of West Fargo. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Item number 4 is changes to the public comment period and meeting times. Bernie Dardis, Commission President, this is one of the items that I'm bringing forward. As we stated earlier today in the public comment and what we've witnessed in the last several weeks, the purpose of the public comment is that we wanted to invite the public in for their input and their thoughts and their concerns or the issues that they might be facing within our community. We've not had the outpouring that one might have anticipated. That's why I initiated it the way I did, to give it the amount of time that is necessary. Well, what we're experiencing is we've got 10, 15, 20 minutes sometimes where we're sitting here because of the posted times or when meeting starts, we can't continue. So what I'm proposing this evening is that we change that so public comment becomes a part of the regular city commission meeting. So we'll have the call to order, the Pledge of Allegiance, the approval of the agenda, building permits, consent agenda, and then item number 1 on the regular agenda will be public comment. That will be a period of, again, allowing the citizens their 2.5 minutes. Everything's going to change. Everything else maintains the same type of directives that we've had on that, but it's a part of the regular. And I was concerned when we separated it at the beginning because of 5 o'clock. There's a lot of good working people in the city of West Fargo that might be a real challenge for them to be here on time. So, you know, the 5:30 with commute times and stuff, traffic patterns and the like. So I'm asking the commissioners to reconsider this resolution as to changing it into a regular agenda item, number 1, always first. So if the public is here only for that portion, they're free to stay or they're free to go. That's what I'm asking.
Would there be a time limit as to how much time we were?
30 minutes.
How many? Okay.
Everything else remains the same, but we move it into the regular agenda. So that's a great question. So let me clarify. When I say 30 minutes, that's the maximum. If it concludes prior to that 30 minutes, we move right into the regular agenda. So we're not wasting the public's time, staff time, or the commissioner's time. And we're not wasting time. You know, we're here doing city business, but that time lapse isn't fair to everybody involved. So again, the thought process initially was that we would be just about overwhelmed with maybe public comment, and we still might be. So that's why we're going to keep the 30 minutes intact. That we'll do that business, and then we move on to the rest of the city's business that we have to conduct. And Commissioner Anderson.
Yeah, so I have a couple questions. First question is, would this go into effect for only regularly scheduled commission meetings, or would this also be for special commission meetings that may be called?
I would take the commission's direction on that.
Okay.
If you guys, I'm here with you guys, so if that's what you want, that's fine.
Yep.
I'm amenable to that.
Second question I have then is, if we have new officers that are being sworn in, would the public comment precede or come after?
Excellent point. Then we will have public comment as 1A. We would always, because we normally get this fantastic turnout of families, and that's not fair to them. So, great point. So we'll have a 1 and a 1A, probably.
Okay.
If that's
We would just alter the agenda.
Yes, sir.
Yep.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
If that's, you guys tell me what you want to do, but that would be my thoughts. Yes, sir, Commissioner Anderson.
Personally, I would think that we would only do it during a regular meeting versus a special meeting. Because sometimes we hold a special meeting at noon, or,
Yep.
something like that.
Yep. I would
Well,
agree with
we could always put it on the agenda, and if there's nobody that attends, then we move. Again, the format is the same. We're not going to respond to them. We're going to take notes and do our homework or research that we need to do with regard to some of the points that they need to make. But the purpose of public comment is not to debate the issue at hand. What Commissioner Simmons did last meeting, when he specifically requested the individual with regard to fireworks on there, this is what he communicated to me, and I agree with him, that because it was so fresh and the issues were considerable, that, we all heard from people that were upset with what the fireworks and situation was on the week of the 4th, that Commissioner Simmons wanted her to be able to address it and us to have dialogue back with her regarding that, of what some of the things we want to make. So that was the difference. So if someone, and you have to have a commissioner bring it forward, or myself, in order to have it like that. And some of our neighbors have it that in order to get on the agenda that's not presented by one of the commissioners or one of the staff members, then there has to be 2 commissioners or the mayor. That's how some of the other jurisdictions do it. I don't think we need to go into that. I think that if one of you commissioners feels that they want an item brought forward and they want to have a dialogue, that's good enough for me. We all have one vote. Commissioner?
Just a question. Would you keep it the same format as they can bring up whatever they want, or would they be just, we would limit the public comments to the agenda items?
Well, that's what some of the other jurisdictions do. That the comments that public makes can only be on agenda items. I prefer a broader scope than that, quite honestly. So what I'm saying is that you can discuss anything that you want, but we're not going to interact with you at that time. We're going to do either, direct staff to do some of the research, come forward with, with one of the public comments this afternoon was more around public works, sanitation, all of those enterprise funds. Commissioner George, you've been involved in that. You were able to give a brief update of some of the things that are going on. So that would be my thought process, is we keep the format as it is now. And then if there's a specific item, they come out, they sit down and visit with one of you or myself, and if they want to have a discussion on an item that's on the agenda, then but that's different than public comment. That's an agenda item. Any other questions? I would like this as an actionable item.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Thank you, Commissioner George. Is there a second, please?
Second?
Commissioner Olson, second. It's been moved and seconded to adjust the public comment discussion as just outlined. Is there any further discussion? Commissioner Anderson?
Do we need to identify if we're going to stick to, if we're going to have this available at all commission meetings or just the regularly scheduled?
Okay. I have a motion and a second. What was the intent of the motion?
I guess as you described, and gosh, I'm okay with either way on that one, so I don't know if I have a preference, so,
It's at your discretion. You made the motion, and then I have to get approval from the second.
okay. Regular meetings, for sure, open public comment to anything. I think on a special meeting, maybe it needs to relate to the specific comments being, or the specific items being discussed.
Okay. Commissioner, second?
Yep.
That's approval. Not special meetings, only regular agenda meetings. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. I have a couple of other items, being that I have the floor. With regard to the Cargill situation, Cargill told us that on January 14th, they would cut the check. Within 2 days, we had the money. So we have been and paid in full. The last payment was for $679,401, which is a payment in full of that issue.
You mean July?
I meant July. What did I say?
January.
Oh, yeah.
man,
Well,
we're cold.
there you go. We're excited about a short meeting tonight. So July, my apologies. So, our finance director called me the day it came in. They cut the check on Monday and it was deposited on Wednesday. Chief Otterness, I'd like to call on you for a few minutes. As the public all knows, we had a tragic event take place recently in our surrounding communities. And I am so very proud of the West Fargo Police Department and the role that they have played to help our Fargo partners deal with that situation and helping with staffing. So Chief, if you would.
Thank you, Commission President Dardis and members of the commission. I appreciate the opportunity to just update you, I think, in the public. And as you said earlier, I couldn't be more proud of my staff as well. President Dardis, they have really stepped up over the last week and a half and just cover some of the, things that we've been involved in since a week ago Friday's events. My wife and I, Tricia, were out of town when the event took place last Friday, and I received the call and was in immediate contact with Chief Zabalski and Assistant Chief Pete Nielsen. And we immediately transitioned our patrol division to 12-hour shifts, and that was so we could take over response to all of Fargo PD's calls, along with Cass County, immediately upon learning about the incident. So in addition to that, our investigations division, a number of our detectives responded to the scene to assist our partners in Fargo and the BCI with processing of the crime scene or anything else that we could help out with. So our response was fairly immediate to get folks over to Fargo to help out. In addition to that, all of our civilian support staff really stepped up. They went out and picked up food and delivered that both to the Fargo Police Department and to the hospital, where a number of officers, obviously, and family members had gathered over there, along with our chaplain teams and our entire peer support team that we have utilized a lot here in West Fargo over the last several years. And we had chaplains, our chaplain teams, both at the Fargo Police Department and at the hospital, and that's been fairly regular over the last week. They've been involved in some of the critical incident debriefs that have happened, along with the rest of our entire peer support team that's under the command of Lieutenant Dura. So even our comfort dogs, our recent comfort team with Dora, Officer Dora Roll, and Labby, our newest dog, made a trip up to the Red River Regional Dispatch Center to interact with the dispatcher that was on the main channel that day when that incident took place. So So all of our entire department has been very involved over the last several days. Like I said, we participated in honor guard details for the funeral service. It was held in Pequot Lakes on Saturday. Because of the volume of events that were going on in our community, both Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, in addition to having to help out with coverage in the city of Fargo and adequately staff for our community, we weren't able to send a lot of people to the funeral up in Pequot Lakes. And but that'll be different on Wednesday. We will have a pretty good showing at the memorial service, the celebration of life that's going to happen at Shields Arena at 1 p.m. on Wednesday. This week, our plan is, as of 6 a.m. Wednesday morning, we will again take over calls for service with the county in the city of Fargo. And so our patrol division staff will transition again to 12-hour days. And they will be working all the calls for service so that the Fargo Police Department personnel can be off for the service at Shields Arena. And that will continue until 6 a.m. Thursday morning when Fargo will take back over. And so we will, again, plan to attend the memorial service. Our honor guard will be there. There will be a number of our staff present as well, doing different details over there, assisting with parking, assisting with event security and things of that nature. So the other thing that we were asked by Fargo Police to take over is the scheduling of the security details. There is 24-hour, 7-day-a-week coverage at the local hospital where the other two surviving officers are, and that will continue until they're released from the hospital. So we've taken over not only the scheduling for that, but providing a lot of coverage to be able to make that happen, along with a lot of other partner agencies in the area. So, and then we also took several shifts over at the coroner's office to make sure that while Officer Walleen's was at the coroner's office, that there was 24-hour coverage there as well. So again, just by that long laundry list of things that we've been involved in, you can see that our department has been very active in trying to lighten the load for the Fargo Police Department. And I can tell you that we haven't heard one complaint from any of our staff. They're more than happy to really step up and help out and be a good partner to Fargo PD and the city of Fargo. So that is about all I've got in terms of updates with our staff, but I certainly would be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Commissioners, any questions of the chief? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Please thank the department for all they've done. Item number 5 is the city administrator's report. Mr. Scott?
Good evening, Commission President Dardis and members of the commission. I just want to start by following up on Chief Otterness's report there and just say how inspirational it is to see the level of response, not only from our department, from community-wide. Very proud to work with such quality individuals. Our staff all over the place have been going through a lot over the last few months and have stepped up immensely. But this just absolutely takes it to another notch, and can't say how proud I am of you and your department, Chief. So, and in other news, and along the same lines of being proud with our staff, I'll start off my report with an update on the 13th Avenue paving. If you haven't driven it yet, Public Works was out there last week. They paved the westbound lane on the north side of 13th there. Did a fantastic job. It's absolutely amazing how quick they were, how professionally they were. They took care of everything, dotted their I's, crossed their T's. They saved the taxpayers a lot of money by doing that work themselves. I think there is some expectations that have been set now, and moving forward, we will challenge them to continue to look at other corridors that they can tackle themselves so that we are keeping costs down as much as we can. So again, hats off to the Public Works Department and their street crews. So, next item, an update on the budget. As you know, we are conducting our second round of reviews with each of you this week. We hope to have that all wrapped up by the end of Thursday. And prior to bringing the preliminary budget to the August 7th meeting for action, I'd like to schedule a special commission meeting next week where the commission can get a formal presentation as a commission body, provide any comments, feedback to staff and how to move forward. In talking with President Dardis this morning, he threw out to schedule it on a Monday the 31st. I know that doesn't work for at least one other commissioner.
Do you have excuse me, are you back anytime during the week?
I fly out, this is for a work trip. It's been scheduled for a few months now, but I fly out midday Monday, come back a little after midnight Wednesday night. So Thursday, Friday is where my availability is, potentially some Wednesday evening over Zoom
Okay.
if needed.
What time on the 31st are you looking at?
What we talked about today was just a regular schedule time, a typical 5:30.
At this point, it's open. Anytime
As
we
of right
can.
now, I think that actually works.
How about Thursday?
So, Thursday,
Because then Commissioner Anderson would be back home.
the 28th, you're saying?
No, that would be
Or
the,
the next one,
Third or fourth?
August 3rd. That one, I guess I can't say at this point. It would have to be a Zoom
Midday,
if I
but
was
I'm good.
participating on that one.
Good in
So,
Charlotte until like 7 p.m. Eastern. So I'm on.
and I myself am out the 3rd and 4th next week. Not that our finance director couldn't provide that presentation along with our consultant, but
Okay, I was unaware of that, okay.
We do it at like 9 a.m. Monday morning?
Commissioner
Depends
Torch?
how long it goes.
9 a.m. Monday
going-
morning, can you do a Zoom?
it will just depend on if I get back Sunday night or have to come back like today, Monday morning. So I guess,
I just thought I'd throw that out.
yeah, I mean, it might work. I just don't know for sure. So,
But you have to leave for the airport by 10:30, right?
Yeah.
9 o'clock.
Well, probably 9.
Nah.
My flight leaves at 10:45 or something like that. So, yeah.
When you said midday. I
Well,
wasn't
sorry,
sure.
yeah,
I wasn't
sorry.
sure what time. It could have been 2 o'clock in the
Late
afternoon.
morning. Late
Why
morning.
don't you send out a doodle poll to us?
absolutely can do that.
there you go.
That works. And there is another option.
I certainly want Commissioner Anderson included if we possibly, and Commissioner George, of course, but, and Commissioner Simmons, we don't know his schedule either, so.
Yep. We'll start with that. We'll start with
let's
that doodle
try
poll.
and, let's see if we can't get lucky and hit on a date where it helps everybody. It's important business, and we need all the commissioners' input.
Absolutely. Okay, and finally, the last thing I'll leave you with, an update on Baker Tilly and their work to begin the search for a new city administrator. Over the weekend, they were able to get the posting made on various websites. So if you haven't seen the latest, you can certainly do that. You can just do a simple Google search if you want. Otherwise, there should be something in your emails from late last week, the brochure that they put together. So I believe their deadline for submittals is August 21st, 22nd, one of those.
Okay,
Otherwise, any questions for me?
questions for Dustin? Do you have any correspondence you'd like to share?
I do not.
Okay,
Thank you much.
very good. I do have one more item that I'm going to address. It's come to my attention that there were some publicity or whatever with regard to our former HR director being in the building and potential that she was doing some business for the city of West Fargo. If you recall at the last meeting, I told you that July 7th was that the HR director's last day, and it was. But if our finance director deems it necessary to call that person on technical information with regarding the operations and how our payroll works. I know that there's a lot of us that have experience with payroll, municipal payrolls, overtime requirements, the federal requirements are for firefighters and police department people are a little bit different, and so that's why. So if our former HR director is called in. We will pay her on an hourly basis. And there's another point here that I didn't want to even address, but I'm going to now, being that there seems to be that an undertone that we're trying to hide something, which is not true. When our HR director took a different position, and we were made aware of it, there were discussions that took place. And I want you to know that her present employer has reimbursed West Fargo dating back to June 19th, because she was under contract with us and had been hired in a different role, not an HR director, at a local business. So when that discussion took place, when that came to my desk, then Mr. Scott and I engaged in that we felt that there was an issue there because of we're paying her and she's being paid by someone else. That employer stepped up. So if there's any more concerns that anybody from the public has with regard to how this has been handled, excuse me, and it's come at my hand, nobody else's, because first and foremost, we're not going to mess with our employees' wages. We're not going to mess up the payroll. And if there's some technical information that we need to, in order to make sure that that takes place, then it's my responsibility as the commissioner that holds the finance and administrative portfolio. I'll make that decisions and I'll take that criticism. So again, we have been reimbursed going all the way back to June 19th. July 7th was the last contract date. Again, but we were reimbursed back to the 19th because of her being employed. So, commissioners, I hope if you have any questions, feel free to ask. We're not trying to hide anything. We're trying to run a business, and we're trying to run the city as best and efficiently as we possibly can. And I will not sacrifice not having our employees reimbursed in the manner that they expect and deserve and are entitled to. Any of those questions have to come through me. I'm the one that does it. Any questions? Be happy to try and address them to you. Does any commissioner have any non-agenda items that you'd like to bring forward at this time? Any staff or department head have anything that they'd like to bring forward at this time? With that, I'm at a little bit of a loss. We don't have Mr. Simmons, but I'm gonna still look to my right. Commissioner George?
Move to adjourn.
Commissioner Olson?
Second.
We stand adjourned. Thank you.